I relapsed multiple times a week for over 2.5 years straight, but over the past 6 months, I actually haven't even fapped once. And one of the biggest things that I did was implementing a timetable. So let me explain to you what that is. In school and in the military, they have a set regimented routines for what they're gonna do at each hour of every single fucking day. And so what this does is that it eliminates free time, because we only really fap when we have free time, when we don't really know what to do, when we're in this slow, lethargic, lazy mode, when we don't have a productive task at hand. It's always in the afternoon or in the evening or in the morning if we sleep in. It's never, for example, straight after a gym workout. It's never after a cold shower. It's never after having hung out with some great friends. It's never during those times. It's always when we're in this fucking lethargic, gay little fucking, just wasting time mode. It's always during those kinds of times. And so a timetable is kind of like a habit and a routine, but for your entire day, your entire week. And so the idea is to increase productivity through not allowing your brain to make the decision or not of whether to do the productive thing. So basically, you should never have to make the decision of whether or not to fap. You should never have that decision in your mind. Your basic, like your baseline behavior should always be something productive. Your brain should never, generate the thought in your mind of whether or not to fap. That should not be some sort of basic attack that your brain reverts to when you're bored. The thing that you should have is a timetable that you look at over and over again, and whenever you fall off it, whenever you don't do what you said you were going to do, you just keep, you return to it and you just try to get into it the best you can. And so what I've done is that I plotted out every single hour of every single day in Google Calendar, and I put it on repeat so that I don't have to make the calendar over and over again like a technical shit. And I just follow to the best of my ability, and I have no pockets of free time. I have no pockets in which I don't know what to do. And so what happens is that my brain has become familiar with this timetable, and because our brains are wired to crave familiarity, and because we find it comfortable to do things that we've done in the past, this sort of takes advantage of our biology to a great extent. Because after a little while, when you have followed this kind of timetable for a week, a couple weeks, you will have gotten used to it. Your brain and your body will know what it is. It'll know at what times you're supposed to be waking up, eating, going to bed, going to the gym, meditating, taking cold showers. And so you will start craving your fucking timetable, right? You will start craving the activity that you're used to. Right now, you might be used to fapping before bed, for example. A lot of people have that issue. But what happens is that when you introduce a timetable and you say, for example, before bed every single night, I'm gonna read a chapter of this book, or a fiction book or some sort of self-improvement book. I personally like fiction before bed. When you do that, you start rewiring your brain to crave that thing instead of fapping. And if you fap in the afternoon, for example, after you come home from school, you're tired, you're lethargic, you got a bunch of bullshit food in your system, and then you come home, you lay on the fucking couch, you know you're supposed to go to the gym, but you're like, I'll do it in like an hour. I'll just have some food. I gotta get my pre-workout meal in anyway. And so then you lay on the couch, you scroll, you have some fucking seed oil, some processed comfort food, some bullshit. You eat that shit, and then you're in this lethargic mode. You keep scrolling. You're like, yeah, man, I know I'm supposed to go to the gym right now, but let's just do it in half an hour. It's pretty crowded at this time anyway. And then you get off your timetable, and you get the urge of whether or not to fap, or you get the thought of whether or not to fap. The sexual urges arrive, and then you have to make the decision, the manual decision in your mind: should I fap or not? And the more you keep that decision in your mind, the more you drain your willpower. It's called decision fatigue. And so we never want you to have to make the decision or not to fap. You can probably imagine that would be great. Because the thing is, the more you stay on this path, and the less times you have to use sort of your willpower to make the decision of whether or not to fap, you start disassociating this activity in this environment, like for example the couch after school, or your bed at nighttime, with the activity of fapping. If you have fapped for 5 years or 10 years a lot, and for example you fapped a lot in bed, then you have a strong association between fapping and your bed, which we want to break, and which you will break if you replace the habit of fapping with something else, which you can absolutely and utterly do. You can do that, you know? And it doesn't take a long time. The reason that my protocol, by the way, link in the description, is called 90-day NoFap protocol is that after 90 days of like not fapping and stuff, that's sort of when I really started noticing that I don't have any associations with any environment or time period like with fapping. Like I don't ever, it doesn't cross my mind to fap. It's not about the streak of not, you know, counting the fucking days to day 90 that you're gonna start levitating or some shit. It's not about that. It's about, for me at least, when I had not fapped for like 3 months, I was like, I'm not gonna fap, you know, I don't even get the urge to fap. I don't even wanna fap. It's not like I have to engage in this constant willpower battle. It's just that my brain and my body isn't used to fapping. It's not familiar with it anymore. The associations have been broken and the habits have been replaced, right? You can probably see this, right? Like, you get my point here. We want to make sure that we wire our biological sort of things, like the systems in our body, to our advantage, which we can do, right? We can just replace fapping with productive habits, which you can do through plotting out a hour-by-hour timetable in Google Calendar, or a note-taking app like Notes on your phone, or Notion, for example, as well. I like Notion. And then you just try to follow this timetable to the best of your ability, right? And so if you got big balls and you want to take action, you can go into Google Calendar or your note-taking software and plot out what you're going to do every single hour, every single day, for example, tomorrow, and just try it out, right? And the thing is, you might not be 100% consistent on it. You might slip up a little bit. You might, for example, just follow it for 30% or 50%, but that's probably better than your normal days right now, you know? And also you can progressively overload it. If you're in a big rut right now, for example, and you don't do anything productive, you're just fucking wasting time like a gremlin, which I can understand. A lot of people do that these days. I have done that in the past. Then you can progressively overload your timetable, like instead of, for example, doing your whole timetable, like going to the gym for 2 hours and work on your business, doing a bunch of homework, doing like cold showers, meditation, all this stuff, you can progressively overload it. You can try to make sure that you do 20 or 30% of your day, and for the rest of the day you can do whatever the fuck you want. But then what you will realize is that once you start building up some momentum, for example, you do the first third of your day, you do your big morning routine with some nice like regulating, calming habits, like for example meditation and gratitude journaling like I do, or walking in nature, you'll probably like not even want to go back to your normal degenerate habits after that, you know, because you get into this high frequency mode, as I like to call it. You get energized by doing like things that require discipline. And so it's a beautiful thing actually, because you can, if you give yourself permission to slip up, to indulge for 80% of your day tomorrow, for example, but then 20% has to be productive. If you start off your day like the first 20%, which might be, for example, if you're awake for, you know, what is like 10, 12, 14 hours, it's going to be what, like 3 hours or some shit like that. Then if you do 3 hours of productive things in the morning, do you think you'll want to fap after that? Probably not, you know, because you have this momentum, you know, it's a beautiful thing. And so, yeah, I can't, like, I very much vouch for this kind of structure for your day and stuff. There's a reason that even though I don't like school, or for example, the military, like I don't want to go to the military or anything, there's a reason for why schools and militaries around the world have these sorts of timetables. You're going to have English class at this time, maths here, natural science here, social studies here, lunch here. Or in the military, you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. and hop into swim in the cold lake or some shit like that, you know, some fucking, and then you're going to march with your fellow soldiers, or some shit like that, you know. You can probably imagine that. And it is because this kind of stuff, a timetable, it fundamentally increases productivity across pretty much all domains, because decision fatigue is real. And the more times you have to make the decision of whether or not to fap, the more likely you will be to do so. So yeah, man, You can check out the full protocol, the 90-day NoFap protocol that I made. It's a step-by-step blueprint on all of these kinds of tactics that I use to overcome this issue. And yeah, it's fucking awesome. I think it's a great piece of education that I've made. And yeah, I'll see you there, bro.